the USC Trojans. They come in ranked 7th in our Jimmy's and Joe's power ranking. For me, they're too high on this list. I have more questions than answers, I think, about USC, and I think I'm probably in the minority when it comes to questioning Jaden Maiava, the quarterback. I'll say this to start, and I'll kick it to you guys for wherever you want to take this. I don't necessarily question Jaden Maiava. I question the direction of the program. USC has backslid since Lincoln Riley got there, right? The first year they were competing for a Pac-12 championship. They lost to Utah kind of in devastating fashion. And then they really got kicked while they were down when they collapsed against Tulane in the Cotton Bowl. That's the last time that USC has really felt relevant, right? They wasted Caleb Williams' talent. They couldn't play defense. Last year, Danton Lynn helped rebuild that defense and get them back on even footing, but the offense couldn't totally figure it out on a week-to-week basis. And they benched Miller Moss, and they go to Jaden Maiava, who transferred over from UNLV after a great first year with the Rebels. This year, they lost a lot of talent on the offensive side. They lost some on the defensive side as well. But USC fans are optimistic that Maiava's arm, his second full year in the system, that they're going to look more like the Las Vegas Bowl USC than they were, the USC that was struggling to convert first downs and stop turning the football over.
It's funny because when you look at just the pure scoring output, Maiava's games against Power 5 competition and Miller Moss's games against Power 4 competition, Miller Moss actually scored more points per game. Now, it was close. It was like 29.25 to 28.36. But like, if we're just expecting the offense to get magically better because Maiava is the quarterback now, I just need a little bit more to see that. And I will remind people that a lot of those points and boosting up the average came when Notre Dame had their game against the Trojans well in hand.
Sure.
And some garbage time came in. But, I look around the rest of the offense. They bring in Eli Sanders at running back. He nice season at New Mexico State last year. I think that's going to be a clear step down from what they had in the running back room last year. They do have their top 2 wide receivers back. Lose a couple of the good depth pieces there, but it's just an offense that I've got to see it before I buy back in. And it's so weird to say that about a Lincoln Riley coach USC team because you're right. The defense looked really solid at times last year. I like the defensive line. They got some really big dudes that I think will help for Big Ten play. Yeah. They picked up Bishop Fitzgerald from NC State, who I think was one of the quieter, better instant impact transfers in the portal in the whole country.
Yeah, from 3 picks last year from NC State.
Yeah, and so I think that's the defense has a lot going for it, but I just week in and week out, the consistency of the offense really leaves a lot to be desired, and is even starting to show that when Caleb Williams was still there. So for me, I'm with you in just needing to see it before I really buy into it. They're a 7-5 team until they prove me wrong, until they go out there and show it on the field. Happy to be wrong. Hope for USC's sake that I am, but that's just what they've been for 2 seasons now, and I really don't see that culture changing all that quickly.
They brought in a bunch of high sizzle guys, right? So you mentioned like the Branch brothers transfer out. They lost Bear Alexander, who, gosh, that guy hasn't fit in anywhere. Now he's up in Oregon. So, they've had a lot of talent come through the system, but what have they done with it, right? And I think that is where I'm with you. I'm going to need to see it before I'll really start to believe it again with USC. Garrett, on the defensive side, Danton Lynn improved what they put on the field under Alex Grinch. That wasn't hard to do. Any of us, I think, could have done that. Good luck, Central Florida. But 77th in total defense last year, and that was with some talented guys going down due to injury. So they get Anthony Lucas back off the edge this year. Eric Gentry is back at linebacker. They have to replace some talent, right? Mason Cobb's no longer in Los Angeles. But Trey mentioned they added some size, some beef, especially along that defensive line, which, USC defensively, the rap against them has been they've been pushed around in the trenches, both on the offensive and the defensive side. That certainly has to get fixed before I'm going to start to believe that their line's at 7.5 right now. And I know the betting public is taking the over, but to me, it kind of signals that they're stuck in a little bit of a rut until proven otherwise, and Vegas is on that boat as well.
Yeah, stuck in a rut is kind of the right way to put it with USC. And look, they're going to have to find a way to stop the run and get beefy on the inside because looking at their schedule, they got a couple of teams in a row where that's just the identity. You got at Illinois, you get a bye week, you play Michigan, you play at Notre Dame. Those are 3 straight games. You're playing teams that are going to punch you in the face with the run game. Like that's just what they're going to do. That's what they're designed to do. That's what their team identity is built around. And then, by the way, yeah, you still got Iowa, Oregon on the end of that schedule, too. Like, there's a lot of teams going to want to do that. So that's going to put you to the test. And maybe they're more improved at it. Maybe they're a little bit better on the defensive side. But, like, can this defense compensate for the drop in offensive production? That's the big question for me is, and this has been my through line on USC, and I'm going to keep saying it until someone shows me something else. Lincoln Riley is now off of his Bob Stoops laurels. Like, he got to rest on what Bob Stoops did from Oklahoma. He got amazing elite quarterback play. He got, everything that came with that Oklahoma program. And then when he left, he still had Caleb Williams coming over with him and a bunch of other guys. Like, now that you're off of that, one of my lines last year was, okay, now that you don't have Caleb Williams, like, are you telling me that, what was it, Miller Moss, like, is he the guy that's going to improve the offense so much that the bad defense is overcompensated for? Like, that's what you were asking for. The answer was no. Like, he wasn't good enough to compensate for a bad defense. That was still not where they needed it to be. He wasn't that level when you're not the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. And it's still true even now, when you're looking at a guy like Maava, who I'm not going to doubt Maava. Like, he's a good quarterback. He's got the arm talent, on the point of, is he going to look like the Las Vegas Bowl guy? Well, like, he doesn't get to play Des Ricks every week, so that's kind of one part of it. But, like, and not to just throw shit. he's gonna catch a stray. I'm so sorry. Hopefully he produces better. He's one of my guys on my favorite team, but like he doesn't get to just throw against that. But like he's still a good quarterback. He's still really good. But like, is he Caleb Williams good? I don't think that he's Caleb Williams good. I don't think that he's good enough to make up for a lack in defensive production. So for me, can the defense be physical? Can they finally take that step to say, like, no, I'm not just going to be Swiss cheese. Go ahead, right this way. Here's I'm going to expand that B gap up nice and big. Go ahead and find that zone run scheme. Like, they got to start to plug some of those holes and play a lot better. If they can't, they got a lot of teams in the middle of that schedule that are going to run all over them. And it's the chatter is going to start up again. Okay, well, you beat Purdue, you beat Michigan State, but you can't beat the good teams. You lose in 3 straight, maybe 4 straight before you hit Northwestern. Like that could be tough for them to sustain. And Lincoln Riley's seat's going to start getting pretty warm. I know he's recruiting well. I know he crushes the portal, but that seat's going to get warm if he can't start winning games.
Well, in Lincoln, the last 2 years has not survived that midseason swoon and gotten them off the schneid quick enough. So you've mentioned it, Garrett, that middle third of the schedule. It's at Illinois, bye week, Michigan at Notre Dame, another bye before going to Nebraska to close out that 4-game pod. It's going to define the season because if they're going to take a couple losses there. I can guarantee it. They're not going to go 4-0. They're not going to go 3-1 in that stretch. I'll tell you that right now, sitting here in July. He can't go 0-4. He like just the vibes of what that would communicate if they go 0-4 in that stretch. It would be the same thing 3 years in a row because they've started out hot with a softer part of their schedule and just fizzled out and not been able to recover from a midseason swoon the last 2 years. So he can't do that a third year in a row. I really don't think USC is going to tolerate it.
Well, and kind of the hard part about that too, a lot of that, like, surviving the swoon is kind of getting favorable conditions on your schedule. Not only are the teams hard, but you get one home game from the end of September until the beginning, kind of middle of November. Like, that's not the right conditions, right? You got a couple of games off in there. You play Michigan at home, but like traveling to Notre Dame, traveling to Illinois, traveling to Nebraska, that's all tough. Like, those are all tough conditions that it can be easy to lose a team, right? It can be easy to, with the fans getting loud and the opposing, teams, scoring a bunch and they're blowing you out. Like, it can be really tough. And then when your one game is Michigan and you got to worry about what the Wolverines are bringing to town, like, that's, again, it's just not favorable conditions. So I've kind of been on the doubt Lincoln Riley train for the last couple of years. I don't know what he's really got outside of what Bob Stoops set up for him at Oklahoma. I'll kind of continue to do that until he shows me that he can lead a team through one of those tough midseason swoons or one of those tricky road stretches, or, find a way to play some good physical defense up front. I'm going to just kind of continue to doubt on USC. I like that they're ranked a little higher, and a lot of belief in Maava, and I think he's a good quarterback. I'm just not willing to go there.
I think while all of that could certainly be true, and I find myself oscillating between 7 and 8 wins more than I do 8 and 9 wins, or even beyond that for this Trojans team, if Lincoln Riley is able to break through, and this is the part that if USC fans, if you're still with us, if you're still watching on YouTube, you're still listening to the pod, if Riley is able to break through, and if he is able to do it on his own, with his own talent, his own team, his own staff, USC very quickly, I think, returns to the throne of college football, or at least to the inner circle, right? Like if they can win 10 games, 11 games, beating the teams that are on their schedule, if they can pull an Oregon from last year and say we can survive in a much more physical Big Ten conference, and we can be in contention for, one of those top, was it 4 or 5 buys, and suddenly sky's the limit for USC because they are recruiting. I think they're the best recruiting class currently ranked in the 2026 group. So if they can back all the hype up with wins, then Lincoln Riley's problems are going to be in the rearview mirror. All the doubts are going to be in the rearview mirror, because I think there is absolutely jet fuel that you could light and see USC even hit another level if they're able to back it up with 9-10 wins. But that has to happen. Otherwise, we're going to just be in the same spot we are this year when it comes to the 2026 previews, right? Like we've got to see actual proof of life that Lincoln can repeat those glory days on his own ticket. Otherwise, I think we're kind of rehashing the same storylines as we are this year.